The dirtiest player in the NBA, a master at trash talking and bullish mind games, the most disliked player on the league. All the qualities that have deemed him basketball's new villain. Dillon Brooks has zero respect for anyone on the court. Be it a regular player or an all-star player, his main goal is to disrupt and get under your skin. Top players like LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, among others, have had their fair share of the Brooks madness. But is he really all bad? We don't think so. Let's take a deep look at why the Grizzlies will regret letting him go, what other players really think of him, and why we think he will be an asset to the Houston Rockets. While Dillon Brooks may be the NBA's current #1 villain, it's essential to look beyond his confrontational persona and recognize the value he brought to the Memphis Grizzlies. Despite his antics and the controversies that seem to follow him like a shadow, Brooks is a player who makes a significant impact on the court. Standing at 6'7" and 225 pounds, Brooks possesses the versatility to defend some of the league's best scorers, regardless of their size or position. From guarding sharpshooters like Stephen Curry or Damian Lillard to facing off with bigger guys like Giannis and LeBron, he takes on the challenge with unwavering determination. His relentless defensive style often gets unnoticed in the spotlight, as most people are focused on his villain persona, but it's been a crucial component of the Grizzlies' success up to last year. Brooks' style of play serves a purpose beyond mere provocation. His disruptive presence on the court allowed players around him like Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr. to focus on their offensive game without worrying about the game's more physical aspects. As Grizzly coach Taylor Jenkins explains, he definitely draws a lot of attention and it can seem very selfish and individual, but it's not. Also, Brooks' unpredictability added another layer of complexity to Grizzlies' game plan. He walks a fine line between calculated antagonism and genuine grievance activism. Depending on which side he leans towards during a game, Brooks can influence the outcome significantly. His ability to get inside the heads of his opponents, as seen in his ongoing feud with Donovan Mitchell, shows that he is a master of the psychological aspect of the game. The reality is that almost every NBA team can benefit from having a player like Dillon Brooks. He might be a villain in the eyes of many, but he's also an essential ingredient for any team aiming for success. This is exactly why the Grizzlies' decision to let him go might be a huge blow for the team. With Dillon Brooks now moving on from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Houston Rockets, the NBA star is set for an intriguing chapter in his career. The Rockets have secured his services with a 4-year, $80 million contract, a move that has raised eyebrows across the league. Let's get something clear. Dillon Brooks is a defensive specialist that brings a career of 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. He takes the challenge of covering the opponent's toughest player and also contributes on the offensive side significantly. That is not a package you find easily. For Brooks, this change of scenery could represent a fresh start. While his confrontational style has earned him notoriety, the hope in Houston is that he can channel his competitiveness in a more constructive direction. The Rockets believe that he has the potential to be a key contributor to their young and refreshed roster, betting that he will find the right balance between his on-court intensity and off-court conduct. In Houston, he'll be surrounded by a young and developing team, and his experience and defensive tenacity could prove to be a valuable addition. Every sport benefits from having a villain. In the NBA, there have always been players whose names are in the history books that have been considered as controversial to say the least. Bill Laimbeer, Rasheed Wallace, Ron Artest, Dennis Rodman, Bruce Bowen, Zaza Pachulia. These were natural-born provocators, the outcasts who made referees' lives a nightmare, and the guys that sometimes cross the line and wreak havoc. Now, in the current NBA landscape, Dillon Brooks is certainly making his way onto this list of dubious honors. Brooks' antics have earned him the title of the most hated player in the NBA, with his trash talking and confrontations drawing considerable attention, since there is rarely a game where he isn't involved in some form of controversy. He's the player who accumulated the most technical fouls last season, with 2 ejections and over $250,000 in fines for technical and unsportsmanlike behavior. One of the most infamous moments is when he hit Donovan Mitchell in the groin after missing a drive and falling to the floor. This added fire to the known ongoing brawl between these two players.
That's just who he is. You know, we've seen it a bunch in this league with him. Him and I have had our personal battles for years. Quite frankly, I've been busting his ass for years. Playoffs, regular season.
Another time, during a Los Angeles Lakers game, Brooks confronted a spectator who questioned his ability to defend LeBron James due to his size, leading to an altercation involving Grizzlies players and former NFL player Shannon Sharpe, who was seated courtside.
And you see Steven Adams comes over to protect his guy along with the supporting cast. And
just recently, in a game against the Miami Heat, Brooks intentionally pushed a television cameraman who was trying to capture the action. Surprisingly, he was only fined $35,000 for this incident. But Brooks' most prominent feud seems to be with the Golden State Warriors. Matters escalated when Brooks attempted to prevent Gary Payton Jr. from driving to the basket during last year's Western Conference semifinals by hitting him in the head while he was in the air. This dangerous move resulted in Payton suffering a broken left elbow and intensified the rivalry between the two teams, with Brooks and Draymond Green often being the central figures in verbal confrontations before, during, and after their games.
This idiot said, "I don't know what Draymond does out there. I'm trying to figure out why they like you in Memphis. Or do they like you in Memphis?" If you ever wondered why the Memphis Grizzlies is not ready to compete for a championship, look no further than this idiot right here.
No, because I know I'm a better player than him. I can do the same stuff like he does. That's easy.
In the NBA, players are constantly scrutinized on and off the court. Reputation matters. And for Dillon Brooks, opinions about him vary greatly among players. To some, like fellow NBA star Kevin Durant, Brooks is a tenacious competitor who embodies the spirit of the game.
You know, had so much responsibility as a young player, being able to guard some of the best players. So you got to have some type of, you got to muster up something for you to do that every single night.
I think Dillon Brooks has taken advantage of the opportunities he's had. It's not easy bringing that energy every game night. It's hard having to guard the best player on the opposite team and being an intricate part of the offense at the same time. But for others, well, let's just say Brooks is the embodiment of everything they dislike about the modern NBA.
Man, they was talking about dynasty and all that. You can't talk dynasty when you haven't won before.
His physical style of play, which often pushes the boundaries of legality, can be infuriating to opponents. Players like Stephen Curry and Damian Lillard, who rely on finesse and skill, find themselves frustrated when matched up against Brooks, who hounds them relentlessly. As Brooks himself says, guys don't like dealing with the physicality. They don't like to get bumped. They don't like having someone in their space all night. Moving forward, the question that lingers is whether Brooks will learn from his past mistakes. While his history of confrontations and controversies is well documented, we see a glimmer of hope that a change of environment, building on past experiences, and the guidance of a new coaching staff could lead to a more mature and composed version of Brooks. Whether this gamble pays off or not remains to be seen, but one thing we are sure of, Dillon Brooks will continue to be a disruptor. What we hope is that he won't be a menace to the well-being of his new team, but just to his opponent.